18.75 billion liters of petrol in 2024 at an average price of 850 naira per liter, amounting to 15.93 trillion naira in value. A 5% charge on that volume alone is expected to generate about 796 billion naira annually, with diesel, aviation fuel, and other products also included. The figure could be much higher. Officials say the funds will be channeled into road and transport infrastructure, but industry groups like the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria warned that the extra cost estimated at 45 naira per liter will ultimately be passed on to consumers, worsening the already high cost of living. So this morning, we will take a holistic look at the proposed 5% tax on petrol and diesel. What implications will it have on Nigeria's economy? My guests are already here. We'll take a break now. When we'll come back with the grand running, please do stay with us. Welcome back. This morning, we're taking a look at a 5% tax on petrol and diesel as proposed by the federal government, and that has actually set tongue wagging in Nigeria. And I have somebody to do justice to it today. I have Mr. Omomofe, who's going to do justice. Akintunde Omomofe, a financial expert, who's going to do justice to it this morning. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Good to be back here. Good morning, viewers.
Let's take a look at your own opinion about this tax that we have also been talking about.
Okay, I think the first place to start from is the position of government. The Minister of Finance had spoken. The chairman for fiscal policy and tax reforms, Taiwo Edele, had also come out to defend the position of government. And what is that position? It's simple enough that the provision actually doesn't say that automatically once the tax laws are activated by 1st January 2026, that provision will be activated also. No, what it says is that at a time that government feels that the economy, the environment is right, then an official gazette will be formalized and made public, and that will be when it will start. It's good that we are laying it out. It's good, I believe, that there is interrogation around it, and that signals something that at this moment maybe the people do not sincerely want the surcharge to start. And I want to believe that government is there to also listen or kick back.
So what's your take? What's your personal take as a professional on this tax?
All right, I think we have to decide of the type of country we want. That is the first thing I want to say. There are reforms which bring gains. Of course, some pains will come along with the reform. So when you have pains, you then have to begin to look at other fiscal measures by which you can address it. Now, I said we have to decide on the country we want, because if you think about it, is this what is global? You say yes, because you have many countries, well above 150 countries, that currently put a certain tariff, tax, charge, levy, whatever you call it, on fuel consumption to deal with infrastructure. Now, let me do a simple analysis. In 1999, and I say this because it's important that we also look at the character of our president, right? In 1999, when this President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was governor in Lagos State, we are told, and by facts, that he met an average of 1.2 billion monthly as revenue of Lagos State. Now, before he left, he increased it and it got to 55 billion monthly. And now, maybe 20 years later, 15 years later, 16 years later, you can all attest to the fact that civil servants, for example, in Lagos, do not need to wait for receipts from Federation account before their salaries are paid, because the internally generated revenue within the state can then be used to pay. There was a time in this country that the president of federal government, as it were, didn't pay the LCDs and local governments generally in Lagos State. But because the economy, the fiscal, the economy of Lagos State, as it were, has capacity to use the internally generated revenue to deal with without federation receipts. Now, this is where I'm going.
No, but that policy, also.
Let me land on this.
Okay.
This is where I'm going. Now, if you then come to federal government, what we have seen over the years is huge fiscal deficit, which means that we are not even able to generate enough non-oil revenue, right? And if you are not able to generate adequate non-oil revenue and you continue to rely on oil revenue, then we are at risk. We are highly vulnerable. This we have seen. 2020, when there was COVID, we saw that there was lull in the global oil market that affected us. It was at that point that CBN began to really print money, ways and means, that caused the problem, I should say, for our currency, for our economy. Now, the president came out last week to say, look, this is my bragging right. I've been able to improve on non-oil revenue by way of taxes as this, and we're already hitting 20 trillion by August, right? It means that if we are able to continue on this trajectory and get our country to the point where you have non-oil revenue as you have in other countries, much more than our oil revenue, then we'll be sustainable, then we'll be stable to fund our infrastructures, to do whatever we need to do within our economy. And I think that's where this is going.
We'll take a break now. When we'll come back, we'll continue with the discussion that is also a topical issue around the country today. We'll take a break now. When we'll come back, we'll continue with that discussion. Please, to stay with us. Welcome back from that break. I still have my guests in the studio. I still have Mr. Akintunde Amamofoy, a financial analyst. Together we taking a look at the 5% tax on petrol and diesel as it's going to affect Nigeria's economy. Before we also went on that break, you were talking about the gains of taxes, especially in Lagos.
All right, so the point I was making is that because they've been able to sufficiently put their economy on a sustainable path by improving on their internally generated revenue, then they don't have to wait for receipts from federation account all of the time before they improve on their infrastructure, before they meet their needs in government. And we should also look at our the way our economy is structured, our finances, particularly at the federal level now. What we have seen in the last 8 years, in the last 10 years, have been such that we have heavily relied on oil proceeds. You and I know that the volatility in that market is beyond our control. The geopolitical issues and tensions around affect that a lot, and that leaves us helpless many times. And I think on a sustainable path, it would be better for this country to then begin to look. We have mouthed this for a long time, but there have never been actions. Oh, we want to diversify the economy. We say it every year, but there are no clear actions, bold actions, audacious actions to justify what we say. Now, I believe very strongly that with this signal that the president has given, even though it has really nothing to do with this, but if you then look at it properly, I believe it's better, very right for this country to improve on non-oil taxes or revenue generally to be on a sustainable
let's be particular about this particular one, the tax on
Okay, for this
petrol
one.
and diesel. I'm coming at a point. You see, the organized labor, especially the TUC, and also most Nigerians have also said that no, this policy, this tax will also make consumers to pay more for petrol.
You pay more and you enjoy more. That's how to look at it. I mean, sometimes we fly one side of the story, we do not look at the other side of the story. And I think we have to, yeah, we know there's a lot of distrust. People do not believe in government. And I thought that this is the time for more citizen action, to be more attentive, to be more circumspect. Look at the whole gamut of what it is. Public finance is technical. Public finance is complex. Now, let me break it down. You imagine that you travel, your travel time from Ibadan to Akure, which is something I believe our viewers in Ondo State can relate to it, right? Currently, it takes you maybe around 3 hours or thereabout. Then you also have wear and tear on your vehicle because the roads are not too good. Now, with the money coming from surcharge, specifically for road infrastructure, they said. Now, specifically for road infrastructure, they have said. So I imagine if that road is fixed, it will take you 2 hours, right? Certainly, it will not take you 3 hours. The fuel consumption of 3 hours is not the same as fuel consumption of 2 hours. Do you agree with me on that? Which means that your consumption level will reduce. What does that mean in terms of value and price? It will reduce. So it is not always correct to fly on one side to say, yeah, if I pay little more, if 5% is little more, then it is more body. No.
But government also has other sources also for generating money, where which they can also develop on the infrastructure. Let's look at the figure that we're also looking at here now. The projection is that governments will generate 796 billion naira from petrol alone. Would you say that will also be enough to fix the example that you have just cited, the bad roads that we have across the country?
In short, that further highlights the challenge that we have. In short, the total figure, if you add diesel and aviation fuel to it, it will hit 1 trillion. That further shows us what challenge that we have as a nation that many people do not realize. Currently, in the current 2025 budget, Ministry of Works only has about 1 trillion also to fix road across the country, 792 or thereabout for new roads, and just 200 billion plus total to repair existing one, totaling about 1 trillion. FEMA, to maintain roads in this country, has just 66 billion, as low as 60. In short, from that 66 billion, overheads and salary to FEMA staff alone accounts for half. So the totality of money when it comes to construction, maintenance, rehabilitation of roads in this country is around 1 trillion naira. So now, if 1 trillion can do as much as maybe 60,000 kilometers across the nation, I'm told we have about 200,000 kilometers of road. Just 60,000 kilometers of road are paved in the country, right? So, and all these 60,000, they are not being attended to all at once. So let's assume that we are attending to 20,000 kilometers of road with our 1 trillion naira. If you add 1 trillion more to it, what does that suggest? You have many more roads, many more kilometers to cover. Infrastructural gap is huge. But you know, if you fix your road in this country, ultimately cost of goods will reduce. Ultimately, inflation will reduce, right? Because if the prices of goods are high because of high transportation cost. I'm sure you agree with that. So if you have better roads, transportation cost will reduce. Definitely prices of goods will reduce. The effect is that inflation will also reduce.
Which one will be your priority if we have the opportunity to also advise? Will it be on infrastructure or will have stable power supply?
Oh, okay, so that's another dimension to it. And I believe government is trying to also fix the power issue in a different way. Now, theirs is not about surcharge. They are, for example, they are raising bond to pay all the debts of GENCOs so that they can continue to be responsive and supply power to the discos too. So, I mean, you just continue to look at creative ways to address these issues. And I thought for road, this is global. This is what happens in every civilized nation. I started by asking, we must all agree to the kind of nation we want for Nigeria.
I would say the timing is also correct when Nigerians are also still grappling with the issue of subsidy removal.
This timing issue is always very interesting when people raise it. The best time in public finance is always now. You see, some of the things we are doing today, if they were done 10 years ago, well, we would have been better by now. So people talked about timing.
When you also bear in mind that we also have a lot of Nigerians that cannot also run their vehicles any longer because of the high cost of petrol.
That's clear. Abroad, do you see everybody driving cars around in UK, in US, all these places? Now what we need to do is to begin to expand our thinking. I imagine in all our cities, this is something we have to deal with. In all our cities, you imagine if there are buses, right? And there are efficient roads, you won't have to take your car to work every day because you have a bus that can take you well-networked road from wherever you are at a cheaper cost.
That could also lead us to what happened in London yesterday. They want to strike the workers there.
But of course, after strike, they will come back and continue the service. So, but the point I'm making is that when you look at cities all over the world, cities are not powered with taxis. When you enter taxis, you are paying more. People are comfortable going on a public transport system that is efficient, buses that are neat, buses that you see what is happening now. Some of the states, for example, are already on CNG buses. Kaduna, Enugu, Lagos, Ogun. So you ask, why should all the state governors not get on this bandwagon, I should say, so that people can then pay less? Because when you go with public transport, particularly bus, then you are able to pay less. Then you won't have to consume the amount of petrol or fuel that we are even consuming at this time.
The school of thought has also said that it's also a strategy by government to disallow Nigerians from consuming petrol.
I mean, I don't think government needs to disallow you. They are making money from it. The surcharge is money to them, so they don't necessarily have to disallow.